Hello, my name's Ruth, and I'm the curate at St John's Community Church, which is a kind of vicar in training role. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of the politics around our current Prime Minister. Now, in all honesty, how we get rid of Prime Ministers in this country is a really big and difficult question. I mean, if you think about it, there isn't really anyone who can sack the Prime Minister because they're running the country. So in some ways, they've got to reach the decision themselves that the time has come to go. And for some reason, the only way to do that in some circumstances seems to be to make someone feel completely useless, completely isolated, and completely hated. And perhaps that's the only way of doing it. That's the only way of convincing powerful people that the time has come to step down. But even though I don't support this current Prime Minister, I always find the process really very sad. It always seems to me that if the Christian message means anything, it means that no one is permanently a villain. No one is completely unlovable, completely unredeemable. And that would even include Boris Johnson. And I think that the process where even after someone's resigned, and we can remember that happening with Theresa May, with Gordon Brown, with Tony Blair, even after someone has already realised that they're not the person who can run the country at this time, there is a tendency in our media and in our society to kick someone when they're down. And it does seem to me that that doesn't help that person move on to become a more productive, loving person. Instead, it kind of forces them into this role of villain, which is very difficult to escape from. Now, I think there are alternatives to this, but they aren't really culturally normal in the UK. So one example of an alternative, which we see a little bit in South Africa, is an idea called Ubuntu. You won't have heard of it. I hadn't heard of it. But Ubuntu is the idea which underlies quite a lot of African justice systems, which is that when someone's done something really terrible, and we are talking like murder or rape, something really, really awful, then instead of punishing the person is taken back into their home village, the place where they grew up. And all of the people that they grew up with remind that person what it is about them that is loved and lovable. Now, obviously, I don't think that would help someone make the decision not to be Prime Minister, but it does seem to me that we're all made in the image of God, even if that can sometimes be hard to see in other people. And so there must be something in each of us that's loved and lovable. And somehow, as a society, we've moved to a place where we want to punish people who do wrong, rather than restore them into the loved and lovable person that they must have been at some point. And that's a really hard thing for society to do, to write off countless wrongs. But then, I guess, when we think about it, especially people who've hurt people desperately, people who've committed murder, people who've betrayed their loved ones, people who've told as many lies in public office as Boris Johnson has. What is the just punishment for those people? It's not a punishment that we can give. No amount of years in prison will bring someone's loved one back. No amount of years in prison will allow all those people who didn't see their loved one while they were dying to feel that justice has been done in spite of the Downing Street parties. These are punishments we can't eke out. And instead, as a society, we lose out each and every single time someone falls into the role of villain rather than becoming a loved and lovable member of society in whom we can all see the image of God. So that's not really a solution of sorts. It's just a kind of lament that this is the way that we do things. And I agree, it's very difficult to think of a different way of doing things. But I guess what is hopeful for me in this situation is believing that everyone can turn their life around, everyone can be redeemed, no matter what you've done, no matter who you've hurt, no matter where you've been or what you've been. And I think if we as people can hold on to the idea that people can turn their lives around, then that will create a powerful force for change throughout all of society, which has the potential to build a better world.